Hello and welcome to the April users group. Today we're going to talk a bit about Avocado incident reporting, the module, something that we're seeing a lot of people ask about. So we thought we better just share some information about it. We do have people that are not on the Avocado platform also using incident reporting. So it's quite common for individuals who are in other contracts, for example, with Active or something else like that, that want and need an incident reporting module. We've implemented just this module for those individuals. So just a reminder that this meeting will be recorded, and the recording and the slide deck will be sent out via email shortly after. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. There's a little hand icon. We'll also have an area at the end designated, a time designated for questions. If you have anything that's immediate, though, please don't hesitate. So, quick agenda. We're going to do a quick tour of the incident manager, the module itself, which, like I said, does run as a separate application. So it can run independently of Avocado. We'll talk about the portal, Experience Cloud, and the use cases for that. I'll show you that as well. We'll talk about dashboarding and reporting, the customizations that are typically made to the incident reporting so that you understand how people are currently using it and how they customize it. And then we'll end just with a few updates and a quick discussion about if you're interested in using this, how you might actually implement it. So I do have a presentation which we'll send out in addition to the recording so that you can follow along on the presentation if you'd like. But I'm actually going to jump out of the presentation because I think it's actually better if we dive into the system itself and just kind of walk through how the system works. So although we will be following this presentation slide by slide, we won't be in the presentation. So like every application in Salesforce, Incident Manager is accessed through the app launcher, the little breadcrumbs in the waffle board in the top left-hand corner. So if you choose the waffle board and type in incident, if it's installed in your system, you'll see Incident Manager. You'll also potentially see a secondary icon that has a community logo, and that's typically what we use for employees or sending it out to people who don't normally have access to Salesforce, don't have a Salesforce license as an example. So there's two interfaces that we do provide. In the Incident Manager, it's a relatively simple interface. We typically start with an IR trending tab, which shows you your incident count by previous month or current month, and incident count monthly for the year, as an example. You'll also see your incidences by type, and you'll be able to see all the different incidence types. We just happen to have it filtered right now by only behavioral, so that's why you're only seeing the behavioral instances in this case. And as always, the dashboards can be filtered by selecting the different divisions or locations or however you want them filtered by. So this is a lot of the fine tuning that happens across different implementations. When you go to the incident reporting module or tab, typically you see one of a couple things. The incident managers, depending on the permissions that you have to have and the security that you need to have, and again, depending on how you're using Incident Manager, you will see either all the instances, only your own, or maybe even a subset of those instances. So there can be different types of incidences that are set up. So if someone reports a child safety incident or something like that, and depending on how you classify them, you can actually have security turned on so that only certain groups can see certain types of incidences. But the incident view itself typically shows you either one of several views: a Kanban view, table view, or a split view. And this is native Salesforce functionality. The Kanban view allows you to see the statuses of the incidences and interact with them fairly quickly just by dropping and dragging them. and it changes the status of that. And you can have conditions on those status changes. So you can say, you know what, if we're going to move from open to follow up, we have to have filled out the follow up details as an example. And I'll show you that in a few more minutes when we fill one out. Same with closed. You can have certain things trigger based on that and required certain fields based on the statuses that they're going to. In addition to that, as we'll get into in a few more minutes, you can trigger flows that will help you track and notify of certain statuses or of certain types of instances that have been created and are needing to be managed. So this is really like your command central. And again, right now in the back end, a lot of people just give it to their administrators. Some people will have security turned on by location, so they can own the manager at location A can only see location A's instances, so that there's a little bit more security when it comes to this confidential information. Incident Manager itself allows you at the back end to put in a new incident report. And this is really the gist of the wizard or the form that is filled out when you create a new incident report. So the incident report itself can have a little bit of information or a lot of information at the very beginning. You can design as many screens as you want or as few screens as you want. And it can be pretty fancy. You know, you could have images on here, you could have logos, things like that. It's pretty simplistic in its view out of the box. So I create a new incident report. And in that incident report, we have all the fields that we've asked to put on each page of the incident report. These fields are dynamic. So there's some conditional formatting in there where we can say things like, if the principal person's not in the system, ask for all the information about the principal person. Here's the information we need. If the person is in your system, maybe you just search for that particular individual, like their so I can actually search, or I could put new people into the system. I can have that conditional formatting on pretty much any field and tie it to any other fields. Again, not only by filling out the form, but also by the status the form's in. Anything that's required obviously has the native star next to it to tell you that's required. It does pull dynamically from your Avocado locations. The categories can be configured any way you need them configured. A lot of people take the category, incident category, and then create security on those instance categories. So they'll create different records based on the type of incident that it is. So if it's child protection, maybe it's a totally different form that you have to fill out or something like that. The incident type. So we have not only a category, but a type. We have whether or not the person is in the system, whether or not they want to withhold their name, what the role of that person in this case was, any emergency contact information. All these fields are dynamic. You basically, when we do implement it, if you're not using the native functionality that we provide in the native setup, if you were to provide a form, we can typically create that form in this system just by updating this, what's called a screen flow, which we'll get into in a few more minutes. So I fill out all the information about this. You know, you can specify a location, general location or general area is a lot of times how that's worded, specific location for the instance, or the left corner of the gym might be an example of what you might say, or you can ask for the facility as well. After you filled out the required information, you click next, and it basically goes through various steps. Like, for example, if no emergency information or no emergency response was called, you're checking that, and it's just telling you, hey, I don't require those fields now. Whereas if I uncheck it, I can also have dynamicness within this where we say, was the police called? Yes. Was an ambulance respond? Yes. And you can have sub fields that pop up after that, like if an ambulance was called, what's the ambulance response number? Please upload that ambulance response number or response form or whatever it might be. Was media on scene? What time did they arrive? And again, if they weren't on scene, maybe you don't ask what time they arrived. So everything is conditional and dynamic and allows you to walk through in a very simple manner. Follow-ups, by default, the system doesn't tie into your staff, but you by all means you can put all your staff names in here and require them to be part of the system before so they're not typing in the name of the staff, they're actually selecting, or it's using who they're logged in as the staff name. In addition to that, you can put in different reoccurring prevention if you want it at this stage, or if you don't want it till later, you can put that in. You can also put in different supervisor information. Most people don't want to maintain all their staff hierarchy in here, so they actually just put it in as clear text where you type in who the supervisor was of the person entering the incident. But if you wanted to, you can maintain your staff hierarchy in the system. You just have to set it up and maintain it, and then it would dynamically grab whoever that supervisor was. Same with health and safety committees, if you have those. People and culture, this can all be either hard-coded or dynamic based on who you're logged in as or based on who the report was for. And the same for risk management. So you don't have to type all this in, but you can. And you can specify whether or not you want to notify them from here. Or again, when we get into it in a few more minutes, you can force it to be notified based on certain conditions. So you can have a combination of both. Some people will leave it as this so that, the person entering the incident report decides whether or not to notify someone. Other situations, they'll do it both, where if it's a child protection or something major, any keywords that they found in this particular instance, it'll automatically notify someone. But that's up to you and how you configure the system. After I submit the incident, I do have to fill out the required fields. I can then go back and look at the incident and see, edit it after and manage it after that incident has been put in. So that's the basics of how an incident goes in. What I will state, just bear with me here. Once you have an incident in the system, you can have one or many different status paths depending on what you need to set up. So you can say, if it's a child protection, I need more than open, follow-up, complete. I need maybe an intermediary step that says reported to the board or something, whatever it is that you need to do. So you can create different statuses and different flows based on conditions that you've set up in the actual incident report. This one in particular is only set up with a simple status of open, follow-up, complete, and closed. As you go through these different statuses, you can trigger different flows based on the status that's happening. You can also use what's called a path to specify different guidance information, like in this case where we're saying, hey, you need to notify someone if this is the case. Or when we do a follow-up complete, we've given both guidance and information from lower down in the incident report where the follow-up area is. We've brought it up to the top so that it's right there for them. When they're in that status, they have, this is the information they're going to be filling out. And like we said, you can make that required in order to even set it to the status. So lots of different options are available, and it can be configured in many different ways. So those paths are very simple to set up. This is native Salesforce functionality that we just want to reemphasize that can actually happen with almost any records, including the incident reporting records. So statuses can be set up. They can be altered very easily. It's really point and click, where you set up a status and select, for example, if it was in an open status, what fields you want to show at the top. Oops. And now I've just added those fields to that open status. I can also create multiple flows based on different record types. So it can have a lot of different record types, like a child protection record type, or maybe a theft record type, and have different paths based on what I want to have happen when those different types of instances are filled out. So that's a path. Like we said, All this is done through flows. There's two different native flows that you'll see in the system. The first one is a screen flow. So we have a native incident report screen flow, which is how we control what fields are shown and what conditional formatting are on those fields. So that actual wizard that you saw where we entered in an incident, that's handled through this, and it's 100% customizable. It's not compiled like other Avocado code. If you knew what you're doing with flows, you can come in here and change this. And you can also ask us to change it based on what arrangements we have. That's the first one. The second flow that's very, very standard and common is a trigger flow, which basically can be configured again in any way. And it can be, as an example, the most common thing we see is the native built-in functionality where we check to see if that little check mark was checked to say notify manager. If it was checked, we send the notify the supervisor email template. So it can all be pre-configured what to do if that check mark's there, but it can also be changed. It could be changed so it doesn't just email a supervisor, it also emails someone else, and it's hard-coded to always email your risk manager or something like that. We can make sure that it meets your specific requirements. So all this operates very similarly to all standard Salesforce reporting. So when you see these reports and you see the dashboards, you'll be able to actually function just like you function in any other Salesforce engine, any other Salesforce application. So this is just native. You'll be able to actually subscribe to these things. You'll be able to export them. You'll be able to secure them. You'll be able to do everything you need to do to manage your incidences. The second thing we wanted to make sure we pointed out to you is that all of this is available through a community. So in the application launcher, you'll see two incident report applications, both the incident manager, which is meant for the back end for people who have access to Salesforce, have a license. And then you'll see the incident reporting, Avocado incident reporting community, which can be exposed through a separate URL. Just like your portal for Avocado, this uses the same community licenses. It's called an Experience Cloud and can be altered as well. But by default, it shows the same screen flows. And when you log into this, you can either allow sign up of a staff member or predetermine who these staff members are and pre-sign them up. So we've seen both. Sometimes you don't want to sign up all your staff members because you have quite high turnover. So you just give them the ability to sign up themselves and enter in an incident report. There's no real risk because the only thing that these individuals can see is their own incident reports. So they enter in an incident report and then they see their own incident reports because they own them. Some customers will say, okay, now that I've entered this incident report, once it's moved from open to follow-up, remove that person from being able to see it because I don't want them to be able to see it in the future. So it automatically removes access after a certain stage or almost automatically, so they only can input an incident and not see even what they've inputted. Because some customers don't want to manage that security when individuals leave, and they don't want them to have confidential data should they leave. This will also work through single sign-on and through managing it outside of just creating staff accounts. So very similar flow. It just uses the exact same screen flow. So that's the community edition. Just going back to our presentation, what does it take to implement this? What I'll state is, for all the Avocado customers, this module is included. So you get the incident reporting incident manager as part of Avocado. So we provide it to you. You're welcome to use it. If you need it installed in your sandbox, we can install the native functionality. What we don't do is implement it for you as part of your Avocado support. You get the incident manager. You're welcome to do everything we just showed you. But if you need assistance that would be consulting. And we would, talk to your account manager and we would implement that through a very small um, engagement. But we would walk you through how to implement it the best way possible. So it's free to use the way it is. If you need it customized or configured and implemented using our standard implementation methodology, then we would have a consulting statement of work for that. So that's everything we had on incident reporting. It's a quick rundown. We didn't expect it to take the full hour. I do have a few more updates for you, but before I do that, I thought I'd pause here and just ask if there's any questions about incident reporting. Adam, yes.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. A quick question about exposing incident reporting through an experience site to non-Salesforce users. Would that always require a sign up, or would we be able to have potentially a hidden URL available on a QR code, something like that, where they don't have to sign up, check their email, verify their account, sign back in to fill out an incident report?
Yeah. So I'll give you a really high level concern with that. Like that is feasible, what you just said. However, it would require some more consideration. And the consideration is you would have to, I'm going to ask Rob to keep me technically correct on this. My understanding is it would require you to turn on guest access. The challenge with guest access is you would then have to consider that you don't want all your guests seeing the same incidents report. So there's more to consider there. There's also a few other not unmanageable challenges with enabling guest access, but you want to make sure that you're cautious. Guest access is how you browse the Avocado portal before you're logged in as a user. Like there's things that you have to do to make sure you're secure is all I'm trying to point out, Adam.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thank you.
Excellent. And any other questions? Yes, Isabel.
Sorry if you already mentioned that, but are you able to export the information?
Absolutely. Yeah. So all the native Salesforce functionality exists. So when I click on a report, whatever it is, and report on the incident reports in the back end, which I'm doing right now. In this case, I only have 2, but I could have hundreds or thousands. I can decide what fields I want to show. I can export it to a CSV in both a formatted view or a detailed view.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And there's ways to do that more automatically as well, but I won't get into that. That's outside the scope of this. Yeah. I urge everyone, I realize that there are a lot of solutions out there, and we're not claiming to be competing with all these purpose-built incident management solutions, but I think that there's a for both. And what I mean by that is, if this meets your needs, there's a certain value to having all your data in one spot, because these are the same constituents that are signing up for swim lessons, and they can be put on the same records now. So there's a lot of power there. I think I saw a question in there. So if you already have an Avocado user, do you automatically have access to it, or do you still need to sign up for this module? So the way it works is we have to install Incident Manager in your environment.
Sorry, what I meant is, like, let's say you've installed the module, but like, can you access it through your normal Avocado user sign in?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But let's just say I don't already have. Okay. You know what I mean.
I was getting there. I do apologize. I started really back too far there. But so first of all, you have to make sure Incident Manager is in your system. It's all of those trying to point out. And then the second part is, once it's in the system, there is what's called a permission set that you need to be given. It's kind of like a group, if you think of it that way, that gives you permission to Incident Manager. And that permission goes on what's called your Salesforce profile. So Salesforce has Avocado profiles where, you know, you have, I think there's one called supervisor, user, and finance, I think are the three permission sets that we see most common. Correct me if I'm wrong on that too, Rob.
You're doing good. Yeah. Permission set in addition to your profile. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just have to give yourself that permission, Tara, and the help desk can help you with that. Like that's part of support, you know, as setting up your users. What is the line between what's part of support and what's kind of custom is implementing it and customizing. Right, that's kind of consulting.
Okay.
Excellent. Any other questions about this? Excellent. I thought I would give you a couple more updates on a few things we're working on. Rachel usually does these presentations. She's not here, so you're not going to hear about all the great development. You're just going to hear about a few other little things because you got me. So I'll just update you on a few small things. The first thing is we have been doing continuing our work on storage. We understand that there's a lot of storage concerns with Salesforce right now. And there has been for a long time, and we've been working on it. We've been piloting a solution that allows us to export out the finance records. And we're in a position now where we're looking for a few more pilots, and I believe a few of the account managers are going to reach out. And essentially this solution is going to allow you to take everything from like 5 years ago or up till 2024, 2023, and move it out of the Salesforce system. So not only have we been working on that, of moving it out, we've also been working on how to report on it, because that was the bigger challenge. How do we make sure that you can report on it, because you need to have reporting for so many years. So we've developed a reporting engine as well that allows you to report on it across Salesforce and this archived option. So it basically just removes this complexity of, now that the data is out, archived, how do I see it? So we have a solution for that. There is a small cost to that. I think it's like $25 or $30 a month, and then $3 for each additional user to have that reporting engine. And that's just licensing costs that, you know, it has nothing to do with Avocado or Texture. It's just the solution we decided to use for reporting. So one of the things we've learned about doing this, that is Canadian. So one of the things we have learned about doing this archiving project, and you know, it's taken a lot longer than we hoped, but every implementation of Avocado has unique considerations. Everyone's using Avocado slightly different, and that causes some challenge, because you know, all the work we do over here, when we see a problem over here, all of a sudden partner client number 2 isn't doing things the same way, so there's not as big a bang for the buck in some of these situations. So it's never as simple as we just do one thing and it solves it for everyone. It's very challenging across all organizations. But we have always started with the largest component, which is the GL master, the journals, and we have a solution. We've completed several storage reduction features and settings that allow you to lock orders, as you know from previous implementations. Those were all key things to allow us to get to where we are today. So we're very hopeful that the next few clients we roll this out to, the pilots go well, and then we'd be in a position to give it to everyone else. So that's storage. I know everyone probably has a lot more questions about that, but I'll just share one more thing before I finish up. We also, you know, I've heard you that Cantaloupe is a challenge, you know, in a lot of different areas. You know, it requires certain hardware. It requires certain systems to be logged in, and we have worked on a solution that's going to allow us to run it as a service. It's going to allow us a more enterprise view of Cantaloupe or access control. So, you know, one of the great features about the new version that we're testing right now is it can be running without it being logged in, but I can log into it and see who's going through these doors from multiple locations. I can just go to a web browser, log in, and see what's happening at that door. So it's a huge step forward. We're currently testing. We're in test mode because the access control is a challenge and needs to be tested thoroughly. So we're very hopeful that it's going to come very quickly to you guys, but we can't promise that it's going to be like days. It'll probably be weeks. And we are looking to do a couple pilots first, where we set up a duplicate system and make sure that it's working clean for those locations first. So lots of other things happening that I did not share here. A lot of really great things, but I'll leave that for Rachel to share in our next meeting. Any questions? Well, I appreciate everyone's time, and I look forward to giving you guys back a half hour. We enjoy sharing, and we also enjoy hearing all your questions and validating if we're going in the right direction. I just answered you, Tara, and we'll get you more information as we get into that. I don't want to quote too hard, but I can tell you that it's not a lot of money for the first user, and then after that, just people reading, like read access only to these reports is $3 a user. So it's a lot less. We definitely will share the PowerPoint and the recording. And the PowerPoint does have almost everything I said in Word on the presentation. So thanks. Excellent. Enjoyed seeing everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.
Yes.